Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Spirit Rescue Talk. I'm your host, Amy Major. And of course, you know my co-hosts, Cynthia Maroon and Jordan Stark. We have a wonderful guest with us today. We've been actually wanting to bring on a lot of guests that bring in new information, advancement in spiritual, metaphysical, and paranormal communities. And we found just the person that does that. And that is Tony Rathman, and he is going to come on and tell us a little bit about the new technology that he's been working on. He is an ITC researcher and paranormal investigator. He has years of experience, and some of the information that's coming from his equipment and his investigative work is profound in this community. So we really want to be able to have him come on, explain the work that he's been doing and how it can help you advance or learn more about the spirit world. So, hi, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
We're really excited to have you on. Like I said, we get really excited when people come on and bring us new information and new techniques and new technology, as you were saying, because it's like I've been a medium for 25 years, and it's like anything that investigators or technologists can bring into the field that can really help everybody understand just a little bit deeper about the human consciousness, the spirit world, and just being able to expand our awareness of the different forms of astral plane and our existence with each other. It's an amazing thing to be able to have these type of discussions. So thank you for coming on. I know our viewers really don't know much about ITC. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on what this is and how you got involved in it?
Sure. There's two forms of audio communication. Originally, everything was termed EVP. And then in about 1960s or 70s, a gentleman named Ernst Sinkowski, a physicist, said, no, there's got to be another term when you're talking two-way communication. EVP is what's called record and review, meaning you start your recorder, you ask all your questions, you probably don't hear the responses. Then you take it home, hook it up to your computer, you amplify it, you denoise it, you try anything you can do to clear up the speech. In two-way communication or instrumental transcommunication, which is what Ernst Sinkowski named it, he said, when you can ask a question and then get a response and then follow that question up with another, that's instrumental transcommunication. So EVP uses a recorder. Instrumental transcommunication, most people identify as a spirit box, which is a device that scans AM or FM radio forward, backwards, and at different speeds. My wife and I built spirit boxes for 12 years, every year creating a new one, increasing its ability to give clearer speech. We could get clearer speech. What we couldn't get was longer conversation. We would still get a word or two, maybe three at the most. Why? Well, because the principle behind creating the spirit box was that spirits would rearrange the audio fragments that the box scanned through quickly at, 250 milliseconds, 150, or even as fast as 100 milliseconds. And then they were supposed to take those fragments, rearrange them into their own sentences, and create speech. Well, that didn't seem quite logical to us. They would literally require every sound needed to put together a sentence available to them at that fraction of a second in order to make that happen. While through our tests and research, along with some former partners, we realized that the fragments of audio weren't needed at all. The other thing not needed was that hissing white noise sound that made it even harder to hear. So then we realized that skeptics, even science, wouldn't even look at electronic or ITC phenomena because they would say, well, first of all, either A, you're not hearing any words at all. Your brain's trying to pattern recognize what you're hearing, and you're trying to make it into something, and there's actually nothing there but warbles and artifacts of sound. The other complaint was that, well, A, if you're using a radio and you're trying to claim to me you're getting speech from the other side, how can you determine reception from deception, which is a perfectly good complaint. If the device you're using is made to take RF frequency in the atmosphere, turn it into speech or music, and you're getting speech, how can you claim that's from somewhere else? Well, what we determined is that the fragments of audio weren't needed at all. They used purely broadband white noise, or the static sound between frequencies. When we figured that out, we replaced the radio with a white noise generator. A white noise generator is a device that creates every sound the human ear can hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz at a spectral frequency of 1, meaning that every sound is at the same level and the same amplitude, which is why you don't hear any individual sounds being at equal level. It just creates this hissing sound because they're all equal. So then what we did was we created Staticom to be able to do everything you did in EVP, amplify it, clean it up. Sometimes you would speed it up or slow it down. We've never had to speed anything up. We've only had to slow down. Spirit speaks so fast that we developed Staticom to slow down live white noise, which has never been done before, in real time. This allowed us to hear the full sentences that they are saying rather than fragments or what sounded like a vowel sound. When slowed down at 50% rate, it was a full sentence, but it came through so fast you couldn't hear it. So that's what Staticom is. Staticom does not use radio, cannot pick up satellite, walkie-talkie, CB, ham radio, baby monitors, nothing. No signal can be brought in. There's no mics used, no audio input whatsoever. It is a closed circuit system. Then we took this system and we had it analyzed by a double PhD professor. He wouldn't have anything to do with the voices. He said, I'll only look at the electronics. He went through the entire system, said, nope, there is no vocalization generated anywhere in here. There's no word banks, no AI generated voice, no radio waves. He said the only concern is in the white noise generator because it's in a plastic case that would allow for electromagnetic interference or possibly some sort of EMI wave that could affect what comes through. So he said, shield it in steel, which we did. Then he said, wrap it in military grade Faraday. He said, then drive a 10-foot pole 2 feet into the ground in your backyard and take the circuit, the white noise generator circuit, and ground it to that pole. He said, if you still get voices after that, I'll be impressed. We did all of that. Voices didn't change one bit. They are still there.
Wow. Well, it looks like you showed them.
Yeah.
Again, this was done for research. We wanted to know, even as simple as EVP, where are these voices coming from? Who do we believe it to be? And through the years after years of research, we've been doing this now coming up on 16 years. Staticom has produced by far the best results. And you'll get to hear some of that today.
Awesome. I'm really excited. What got you started in doing this? How'd you get so passionate and involved in this?
My wife. I didn't believe any of this. My father was a physics professor for 46 years. Every question I asked, Dad, why is the sky blue, was a scientific answer. Well, because of the atmosphere, because there's water vapor in when sunlight hits it. Blue's the most reflective, nothing about spirit. So my wife started watching the shows when they came out, and she'd always say, come on, you got to watch this. And I'd sit down for about 2 minutes and then get up and go, come on, none of this is real. This is for entertainment only, and I'd walk away. Well, then she tricked me back in 2010 on Valentine's Day weekend, and I said, well, what do you want to do for Valentine's Day? She said, I want to do something different. I said, okay, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to go ghost hunting. And I was like, oh, my God. But I had two choices. I could take her or have her mad at me until next Valentine's Day. Didn't want that, so I took her. Found a hotel here in Phoenix, Arizona, that had a reputation for being haunted. Bought her some inexpensive equipment, night vision camera, audio recorder, digital recorder, and EMF meter. And I said, okay, let's go. So we went, and I played along. She had fun. That was all I cared about. But when she started reviewing the audio and we had voices answering the questions we asked, that's where my attention got caught. That's where I spent months trying to debunk it. Couldn't. And for the last 16 years, we've been traveling all over the U.S. and other parts of the country investigating, including Japan, the Philippines, all sorts of areas.
That's amazing. And I gotta say, we choose our partners for our contracts and agreements, and obviously she was there to wake up your life purpose for you.
Yep, she did.
Wow.
She may regret it now, but she did.
Well, it's like, I think it's interesting because it's like, especially for men, they always ask that question of, is this real? Is this not real? I want to debunk this, because they want to find out the scientific answer to it, just like your father kind of came in and was kind of molding you into that mindset of, you need to question everything and understand it through scientific principles to be able to no longer question it and be able to find peace and understanding and comprehension in our third dimension. So I get that. And you're using what you knew from him, and then the inquisitive nature of your wife coming and saying, but what else is out there? And then you're kind of using both of their influence to pave the way for your future and your growth in this work, which is amazing to be able to do this. I'm just very interested. What is your goal with doing the Staticom, other than getting more validation and proof of this? What is your big goal, though? What do you want people to walk away from?
Well, the original intent, and this was years ago, many years ago, was just to prove that spirits or consciousness could speak, had the ability to communicate, and we wanted to capture the clearest, the most profound example of that we could. But everything's changed since then. It's no longer, and a friend of mine, Rick McCollum, always used to say, when I was out hunting for spirits, what I found was my own. And that rings so true today, because we're not chasing, an individual spirit or ghost who's wandering around out there. What we're chasing is consciousness, what each and every one of us is, what we are embodied as, why we're human, and what we return to after death. And then people say, well, how can you say consciousness survives human death? Science says consciousness is created in the brain. No, it's not. There's proof after proof after proof, and it evolves more and more today. But if you are consciousness having a human experience, then the only thing you can be when leaving is, again, consciousness and nothing else.
Exactly. Well put, for sure. I am wondering, when you are picking up on these different forms of consciousness, do you pick up on anything that's unexpected, like spirits in the light, earthbound spirits, fragmented forms, interdimensionals? Like, do you pick up on everything, or and if you do, can you tell the difference when you're picking up on different forms of consciousness?
The question is always asked, how do you know who you're speaking to? The fact of the matter is, we don't. We can tell you they're not here. They're not in physical form. They are not in front of us. They are not even in our home or the haunted location we're in asking. How do we know that? Well, first of all, getting vocal response does not, we can't classify a location as being haunted because of it. Why? Because spirits are of non-locality, meaning they can answer from anywhere.
Right.
Such things as time and space is a human construct. They don't exist for them. So can we identify who we're talking to? No. Could they lie to us? They could. The best way we can identify is A, to ask, who are we speaking to? There's only two responses that come through: spirit or consciousness. That is how they classify themselves. Not, have we asked, can we speak using this method to extraterrestrials? They have said yes. Would we know that we were, though? No. Between my wife and I, we speak 4 different languages. We've gotten every one of those languages, and we've gotten languages none of us speak. We've had people ask questions in Native American language and get their answers in their Native American language, which we wouldn't even have known. We didn't know what they asked or what answer they got, but they got it. They identified it and said, yeah, I got my answer. When we started getting this information and realizing what was going on, we had to take a step back and literally reevaluate what we believed life to be, what we believed the afterlife to be, and how it worked. And today we follow a process called analytic idealism, which says that consciousness is the ontological primitive, meaning it is the one source in life that cannot be reduced any further. It is there before life, it is there during life, and returns back to universal consciousness after life. And everything learned here as a fractal portion of universal consciousness is taken back. That information is then shared among one mind or universal consciousness, which allows a single mind then to grow just as space grows at the speed of light daily. Space could not continue to grow if a universal mind that operated it was not able to grow as well.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah, these are some deep concepts.
I know. Go ahead, Cynthia. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, so do I. But I mean, I just think that these are really deep concepts. I think sometimes, people would say, oh, paranormal researcher. Okay, I know what that is. That's ghost hunting. But you're listening to Tony talk, and it's like so much deeper than that. And I'm loving it. I'm loving that it's kind of breathing some new life into paranormal research. It's really refreshing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think it's interesting that you brought up beyond space and time, and obviously matter with third dimension. Are you able, and I'm just inquisitive about this, are you able to speak to any forms of consciousness that could be very much in the past and gain answers to some questions that we have, that are historical questions that we've always had? Do these spirits have the capability to arise and come from the past to be able to answer some of those questions? Do you think that might be possible?
Well, let's first break apart your question. The concept of now, past, or present is, again, a human construct.
Right.
And people have a hard time putting thought around that because it is what we've absolutely learned, that time is linear. Everything that's happening right at this moment is the now. What happened before is the past, and what happens later is the present. But technically, none of that exists because you are always only in the now. No. You can remember stuff that occurred. So to say a spirit from the past, if they are now energy, frequency, and vibration, which controls everything you see, experience, are all forms of energy, frequency, and vibration. When you sit on a chair, that wood is literally composed of energy, frequency, vibration, and held together in your mental process of what a chair is in that form. So when speaking to spirit, which is everlasting, eternal, there is no past or present. It is just current and will always be current and has access to universal knowledge of which we all will have when returning.
Right. That makes perfect sense. It does.
So to further answer your question, we can get the answer to absolutely anything that's already happened. What we can't get is future. And we believe that reason for that is we believe that spirits, consciousness, whatever you want to term them, are held to universal laws, and that each and every one of us are here to learn, grow, and evolve, and they cannot interrupt that or affect it in any way, shape, or form. So I can say something as simple as, I have 2 jobs. I can choose from which one should I take. Crickets. You won't hear a word because they won't answer. And also because we've asked for the winning Powerball numbers a couple of 100 times, you don't get them.
Nope.
But anything from the past, absolutely, they will answer. And correct. We did a random history 100-question test asking Staticom. We had a 97% correct rate of questions.
Oh, so answers that you already knew.
Answers that were looked up by one individual in the test. He had the answers. The questions were given to everybody else to ask. 97% effect rate on those questions.
Oh, that's amazing. Again, maybe not looking into the past, but looking into problem solving of problems that were going on in the world right now, or, to help us with medical advancement or scientific advancement. Would that be interfering with our free will by giving us some answers?
Yeah, I think that would be considered future. But it definitely has the capability of raising the vibrational level of all of humanity. And I think that's the most important aspect of it right now. Not to mention things like cold cases. When you can literally ask, hey, what happened? Who did this? And get responses. Yeah, I think that could be a huge help in things where law enforcement doesn't know which direction to look or turn.
Have you ever connected to any forms of consciousness that were not aware of their situation or seemed confused in any way?
Nope, which I think will shed a lot of light on some of the axioms of the paranormal, because there are so many of them out there where people just hear something, it gets passed along and assumed, oh, if you put 2 mirrors together, you're going to create a portal, okay? Whereas one single bit of proof that happens. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying, show me something that someone's passed a quarter through one mirror and it's come out the other. Never heard anything or seen anyone do anything like that. Now, am I saying that portals don't exist? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that axiom of that if 2 mirrors are facing each other, you're going to open another dimension. There's no proof of that. So we try to keep what we're doing with Staticom tied in 2 basic realms of understanding. One is science. We will not go down some path that twists and turns all over the place of explanations. We try to do a direct line from what we're getting, the research is showing, to how we believe it's occurring. And the other one we try not to butt heads with is religion. Any religion, and I don't care which one, but because there's a lot of things, I think, in religion that are truthful, that hold utter importance. The teaching of it may have been twisted a little bit through human history and humans rewriting it and translation and all sorts of other things. But knowing that science can't explain everything, and we see them struggle today, the fact that they're materialistic based, and they can explain consciousness. I mean, science suffers from what's called the hard problem of consciousness. They cannot tell you or understand or study consciousness. So then what has science done? Well, it's gone from materialistic science to now quantum physics, then to quantum mechanics, and now to what's being called quantum consciousness, which theories like the Ork-Or theory, and where consciousness is falling into play into the realm of how we believe things are happening, occurring, and being shown to us.
Wow. So is there any information that's come through that's really wowed you? of things that like you didn't know before that really sets apart from everything else? Like, what was that wow moment that came through for you?
That wow moment is daily. There's not a time we run it we don't get information that we have to reevaluate our research, what we're doing. And you'll get into more of that when we play some clips. So it might be a good idea to play a clip. Let me pull up the first one.
I'm ready to go.
Now, this is going to back us up all the way back to direct radio voice. This is still using a radio. I'm just going to play one clip from this. This is one of the first responses we got, where if you look back at the ITC pioneers, people like Friedrich Jurgensen, Konstantin Radeva, Marcello Bacci used direct radio voice to communicate with spirits for 35 years. This system used similarity, but brought into the 21st century of electronics. My wife is trying to reach Marcello Bacci. Let me play that clip.
Marcello, can you see us?
Yes.
Thank you. Marcello, you started this method. It's working. Can you please try to communicate with us?
Now, again, Marcello, being an Italian gentleman, would have spoke Italian. Yet he responded to my wife in English. But the fascinating part about catching vocals is you get handed a bucket load of information before you even listen to what they said. He said, "I'd say glad to meet you." But yet you could still hear an Italian dialect, even though he was speaking to us in English. And we found that absolutely fascinating.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm going to jump ahead to another clip.
Mhm.
And this now is Staticom 2.0, which gave us a little bit more clarity. And I asked them if they could say my name. And not only did I ask them to say Tony, but they responded with my legal name. So that caught my attention. And then I asked them something back, and here's that clip.
Can you say Tony? Did you just say Red? Yep. So you know who I am, who you are? Yes, sir. Thank you. Who am I speaking to?
Wow.
So again, fascinating. Now remember, I'm not using a mic. I'm not transmitting my voice in any way, shape, or form. I'm speaking in my normal tone of voice. That was actually captured in our house. But I asked, "Do you know who I am? Can I know your name?" I got first and last names of two individuals, two different voices, two different voice structures, way of speaking, which, this is where it started. This is where it began. And it just keeps going from here. But that's not something you would ever get on an EVP. Ask them for their name and get a first and last name. You may get a first if you're lucky, but so I'm going to play one more real quick, and then let you ask some questions. But this one is one of them where it was a wow moment. But having done 12 years of EVP research before we got into this method, I wanted to know, since I'm human and I'm creating vocal sounds or atmospheric pressure waves of sound that travel through the atmosphere for a limited distance, another human being standing within that locality of my voice has physical ears. The follicles in the ear vibrate. That vibration gets transferred to a liquid center of the ear, which then begins to vibrate, which sends to the brain. The brain says, "Oh, this is speech, pay attention." But if a spirit is no longer human embodied and I'm still creating vocal sound waves, how do they hear me speak? That's what I asked. Here's that response.
How do you hear me speak?
So that was phenomenal because it explained so many things. There were so many times we'd be doing EVP and the answer would show up on the recorder before we even finished asking the question.
Right.
What does that mean? That means they don't need my vocals. The only thing that needed my vocals was the recorder, so we knew what we asked. They would get it from my mind. So that to us is consciousness to universal consciousness, transmission of information. We also believe that it's the same process with mediums, how they get the information they're getting, or the feeling, or the pictures, the imagery, the emotional feelings that they're experiencing at that point in time. It's no different. All we've done with Staticom was to take what is outside of our human hearing and use the technology to convert it into the 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz that the human ear can actually hear.
Right. You've created a receiver of their consciousness in a way that is projected in sound waves. Does it come in anything else other than sound waves and being able to hear, or do they communicate in any other way? Like sometimes when they come through, will they mess with technology? Will they flicker the lights? Will you feel their energy coming through? Do they stimulate communication in any other way when they're around you?
Well, if we back up again to the fact that I said that they're of non-locality, meaning they can answer from anywhere, means they wouldn't be in my physical house. Could they be? Yeah, they could. But most of the time, no. They are not here sitting in the room with me. So if somebody says to me, well, you know, if I went over to the neighbor's house, had a cup of coffee, sat down with them for an hour, talked, then got up and left, yeah, you could check the chair. It would still hold my body heat. I may have left some hairs or some skin cells that you could determine, yeah, he was in this house. But if we did that over the internet like we're doing now, there'd be no record of me ever having been in his home because I wasn't. So it is the same thing with the vocals, is that there is not any residual energies left because they're not physically here.
Right. They can't be because they're not in the physical world, but they're
projected. Correct. I mean, you still have, you know, apparitions and things that are physically seen by people, and that may be a different situation. But when it comes to vocals through Staticom, no, we don't believe they have to physically be anywhere near us to answer. So no, there's no side effects or residual energy left because they're not physically here.
Have they provided any information as far as the ascension of our consciousness, or any information that may come through to explain a little bit more about how our consciousness works? But is it still in the infancy of just saying, we're just really excited that we're able to communicate at this point?
Well, again, the idea of ascension is layered based. And again, you know, it's no different than people here on Earth, where some know more than others about certain things, and some people are still learning everything, where others seem to have a higher degree of knowledge with things. We believe that the spiritual side works as well. Now, if you're talking about an ascension from like earthbound to heaven or to hell, again, based on space and time being a man-made construct, we don't believe heaven or hell to be a place. I mean, even if you go back through pages of the Bible, the only person that ever gave any indication of where the kingdom of heaven was Jesus himself. And where did he say it was? He said the kingdom of heaven is within.
Right.
That means it's not a physical location. It is what we believe to be consciousness, and the growing of the vibration, the understanding of what life is about, and that heaven and hell could be literally anywhere if your emotional states put you there.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be a location. And they are all around us all the time.
As far as the ascension goes, it's more of an inquisitive nature of the openness of our consciousness, the more self-actualization and awareness of our consciousness that people categorize as ascension. Have they spoken anything about how our consciousness is awakening to more of who we are by still living in a third dimensional concept?
It's not in a good place. They say that all the time.
Oh.
I mean, if you look at how we treat individuals, wars we fight over the stupidest things, yet we're killing people, the human race is in poor shape. No doubt about it.
Hasn't it always been?
Well, that's true. But I'm assuming we were meant to ascend, and I think we're failing miserably at that.
Sorry, Cynthia, I know you had a question.
No, I think it's obviously, Tony, you have a very curious mindset. And I'm grateful for that because you're taking a science-based approach. But for people like us that have psychic and mediumship abilities, you're helping bring validity to it in things that maybe we couldn't prove before. So I'm grateful in that regard.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. We've done lots of tests with mediums, and the combination of information that can come through between what the medium gets and what Staticom can actually finish saying is unbelievable. We had a medium one time in a location saying somebody died here. It was male. I'm getting a J for a name. Staticom finished the name, said that was John, had a heart attack, and it's absolutely amazing the connection that can happen. But then again, we were doing a live demonstration for a public audience, and we let the audience ask their own questions, because there's nothing more fulfilling than having somebody who's suffering from grief or some sort of trauma from a loss of someone, to be able to get a message that they recognize the voice and can say, oh my God, that was them. That was the answer I needed. But this medium came up and said, I'm a medium. Can I ask a question? I said, absolutely. Go right ahead. First thing Staticom said was, she has no ability. And she literally didn't ask her question and walked away.
Wow.
Sounds like those spirits were feisty.
They can be.
Oh my.
They can be. They have personalities just like we have. You can get a different outcome from the same spirit, from day to day. No different than if you walked out on a street corner and asked 10 people, hey, I have a question. Can you answer it for me? You'll get people that'll say, absolutely. What do you need? You'll get people like, don't bother me. I don't have to, so it's, it's not that dissimilar.
Takes all sorts.
It does.
It sounds like these can be any level of spirit or forms of consciousness in the astral plane, because that sounded very opinionated from a spirit. Like I said, they're still there. And sometimes mediums, because like a lot of my guides come through and say everyone has abilities and everybody is a medium if they're able to focus their energy in that.
There's your key word, though. If they're able to put that attention into it, raise that vibrational energy. So I think that's the key word. If they do that. And a lot of people want to, but don't put in the time, energy, or necessity to grow it or experience it. Now, do I claim to have abilities? No, I don't. That's why I build equipment. But even if you look at somebody like Marcello Bacci, who was tested in lab, and they ripped his radio apart vacuum tube by vacuum tube to see where the voices would stop coming through. Well, they didn't. They pulled all his vacuum tubes. The voices kept coming. The only thing they could remove to keep the voices from coming in were Marcello himself. When they took him out, the voices quit.
Now, I'm not here to spook anyone out or to say anything that would seem scary for people, but we have an entity removal specialist here. I do a lot of work with earthbound spirits, and sometimes they get a little dark, or what we consider dark, and a little negative. Have you had any negative forms of consciousness come through in the Staticom?
Only one so far, and it was in Gettysburg. We were there speaking on this particular system, and I had a friend who has a very haunted location in Ohio, and she said, "Hey, I'm having some trouble. Do you have the device here?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Could we run it? I have questions." I said, "Sure." And something very dark came in. What was being said was just awful. It was screaming like a banshee. It was vicious. Now, I don't want to say demonic because, Hollywood is absolutely just that word something it's not, but it was not, it was dark, no doubt about it. So we literally had to shut the machine off. We all went outside. There were probably 15 of us in there. We all took a break, let things settle down, and then came in. But that would be the one I remember off the top of my head that I would consider to be on the dark side.
Right. They're all around, just as much as, all the other spirits are. And I think your device can be used for the greater good. I really do. Do you ever see it replacing mediums one day?
No, I don't see it replacing. The nice part about it, though, is I don't have to have a third-party interpreter. So if I was to go to a medium, they're receiving what they're receiving, but then they have to decipher it and then reinterpret it to me. Do I know that they interpreted it correctly? Whereas Staticom, I hear it directly from those giving the message, and so does anybody else in the room, whether that be another person with me or 100 other people. Everybody hears it at once, at the same time, with the same message.
Wow. Now, is this something that only you use? Is this portable? How, are other people allowed to purchase this and use this? Where's this kind of going?
It's not purchasable yet. This was done for research. It's what makes people want it to be purchasable is the fact that the results that it gets, and we don't blame them for that. I mean, what it can do is literally off the charts, but it's not available yet. We just signed non-disclosure agreements with an ITC developer in Brazil named Samuel Andrate. He is a fantastic ITC researcher and electrical engineer, and we are going to push this to Staticom 3 to 4, 5, or however far we can push it before we release anything. But we've been pushing really hard to get true scientists involved, and that is a struggle unlike any I've ever experienced because they won't touch it. They are still of the mindset, body dies, brain dies, consciousness is gone. Well, then who's answering my questions? But as I think we only have about 17 minutes left, can I throw in another clip or two?
Absolutely.
For sure.
All right, great. So now we're going to run up to Staticom 3.0. I got to reshare this. Sorry, I stopped it. The difference between 2 and 3 was that 2, you could ask a question, maybe 2, and then communication would get lost. So the first thing we said at that point was we got to make this so that it does not stop. So that question after question can be answered, asked, and responded to. So that is what we did. And then what I'm going to play now, there's no scientific questions here, but what it's going to show is that two-way communication back and forth and show what it can do. So here's that clip.
Nine what? Well, I can hear you when you whisper, you know that, right? Guys, if you're not familiar with this device is called Staticom. If you heard me say Staticom. That's right.
Now, can you say static for me, please?
Chris. If you don't want to say Staticom, let's play another game. What am I holding in my hand? Glasses, thank you. Thank you very much. How about pineapple? Can you say pineapple? Oh, perfect, thank you. How come you can't say Staticom like that?
It's one word.
It's one word, Staticom. Have you not been able to talk to humans before? If you can hear me, spirits, say elephant.
Do you know Tony?
It's me. If we use this device to help cold cases, will you answer the question? Yeah, sure. You bet. Thank you.
That will help.
That'll help a lot.
Wow.
So there's just an example. Hold on, my screen's okay. Of the back and forth, constant conversation, just like we're having right here, right now.
Right.
And I'm sure questions are absolutely just coming to you like crazy. But just let me, for time's sake, let me play one more. I know what I want to play, but let me, I guess, ask permission first. So there was a situation where a friend of ours was shot and killed. And when my wife came in to tell me, she had a very distraught look on her face. And I was running Staticom at the moment, and Staticom said his name. So I said to my wife, wait, stop, get your phone, let's record this, and let's ask some questions. And the amount of information that we got, and this was the indicator that said to us, we can use this for cold cases. So I don't know if I'm okay to play that or not. This happened in the Philippines. It wasn't here. All right, let me pull that one up. Now, you're not going to see our faces because this was very emotional. But let me throw this one in real quick. Here it is.
Yes, he was shot. Lenny, did you know that you were shot? Do you have a message for your family? To your mom? I saw you how they shot you. Or shoot you. Lenny, kilala mo ba kung sino bumaril sa'yo? Yes, para mabigyan ka ng hustisya. Kilala mo ba kung sino bumaril sa'yo? Just give me the name, Lenny, so I can help you. Did you know how you were killed? Lenin was shot and killed last Monday.
Glenn, do you know who did it or not? Yes. Can you give a name, please? Let's start with first name. What's his first name? Christian. A name? Was Christian a name? Was Christian a first or last name? Okay, first name. Do you have a last name?
All done?
All done.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, can we prove it? Not yet. We did release it because if the information ever does get solved, although murders in the Philippines is about 0.01% that gets solved, but we wanted it out there before any information is ever released, if it is, because no one would believe we got a first and last name of who supposedly did it if it wasn't released prior.
Right.
But just to be able to ask a question from pure broadband white noise, which contains no vocal data, no syllables, no words, no sentences, it does not exist. Yet I ask a question, and with timing, relevance, and intelligence, get responses to the question I asked. That should be occurring.
I have a question to me. You were talking before about, having a limited amount of time you'd be able to have an ongoing conversation. Is there like a goal for you where you're hoping to be able to even progress to the point of like doing an interview with consciousness, to be able to have that back and forth with a particular theme topic?
Yeah, I mean, again, we have to watch what we know they can't reveal, but we are getting closer to the point being able to identify a particular spirit to have a conversation with. Like I had a 7-minute conversation with my grandfather who passed away when I was 12. I recorded it, didn't say a word, sent it to my mother. She called me minutes after and said, "This is your grandfather. Where did you get this?" So then I explained what we were, but she identified the voice. She knew who it was. She was blown away by the fact that she identified it by his vocal characteristics.
That's priceless right there.
It is. And for what it's done for people who are experiencing tremendous grief from loss, we were doing a live demonstration at Phenomicon a month and a half ago, and we had people literally come off their chairs, kneel down on the ground crying because they recognized the voice, got the answer they were looking for, or trying to figure out whether they were okay, whether they, there were some people who had taken their life and due to religious views felt they were probably suffering in hell. And the voice came through. They recognized, said, "I'm fine. Don't worry. Everything is good." That kind of relief from pent up grief and suffering of them worrying was just phenomenal to experience and see.
Yeah. So you said you're doing these at events. Can people come to you individually and talk to a loved one?
We do public events where we allow people to talk. People have asked, because we've done lots of events like this, people said, "Well, how can I come and individually ask?" Well, we originally were going to set up the ability to do this online. The problem is multifold. One, accepting money for spirit communication isn't something we wanted to do. It isn't something that's looked favorably upon, even though psychics, mediums will do it. But again, you're paying that person for their time, whereas we have a device, so that can cause some legal issues. But then the last one was that we have, if you look back through ITC Pioneers, Marcello Bacci at one point lost his ability to get the communication. And we're not sure what he did that caused that, or even if he did anything to cause it himself. But we know he did lose that ability, which I don't want to lose. So the one way, and not to make this an ad, but we do have a Patreon page that we do run live sessions where anybody who's a member gets to ask. We ran one last week, and I have a fantastic clip of responses that came out from people's questions, and it's amazing. So that would be my for somebody who literally wants to ask some questions of their own, that would be my suggestion. Otherwise, we have YouTube channels under Staticom, Entity Voices website. There's all sorts of clips, podcasts, where we're going to be next, where we're demonstrating, all available on those sites.
Wow.
That's nice to know that's available.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's nice to know that's available. I'm glad that you mentioned the Patreon. So
Thank you.
people
Yeah,
who are interested, that they can actually have that experience themselves.
They can.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's patreon.com/Staticom. And, if you join, we're gonna do a couple sessions a month, so people get opportunity everyone to ask certain questions. Plus, it's nice because it's a little more secure environment. People that are there want to be there. You don't have somebody bashing you for questions and things like that. So it's a nice community to be able to present stuff like this.
Very cool.
So what's your hope for the future for Staticom?
We don't even know the boundaries of it today. We're still researching to find out where those start, stop, and end. But in very recent research with my partner in Brazil, we're considering adding a visual component to it as well. If you know people like Sonia Rinaldi and many, many others, I don't want to name all, we've now developed, my counterpart has developed a system that can bring in visual imagery. So to be able to hear the voice, have a communication, and maybe get to see a shot, we are looking forward to implementing those two systems together.
Wow.
Something to watch for. That's awesome.
It is. That is something absolutely to watch for. And again, life-changing for us here in the world. So I want to thank you.
You bet. Yeah. But for so many reasons, from an individual basis to the consciousness as a whole, lifting those vibrations, getting people to feel better about what they're here for, what they're learning. I mean, even if life's not going the way you want it to, there's a reason for that, and you're learning from it and growing. And so, yeah, but yeah, I appreciate being here. I appreciate being able to share what we're working on, and let other people find out about it. So thank you.
Well, this was really a joy and a gift to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I didn't know anything about Staticom before I met you online, and I think this is going to go much further than many other forms of technology have gone before. So I fully support you in everything that you're doing. And so
thank you very much.
And I know many of our viewers are going to support you too. How can they reach out other than the Patreon? Can they reach out to you on Facebook or email or a website they can contact?
Yep. If you go to the website, entityvoices.com, there's email there. It also has links to all of our other social media. But Facebook, I'm under Tony Rathman. You can look at, presentations we've done and other things. Most of it now is moved to Patreon just because that's the best place to put it for people that really want to see all the back end stuff, things we've presented, private sessions we've done. All of it is there. But yeah, those are the best ways to reach out. And there's email on the website, and you can contact via Facebook and all sorts of other ways. So,
you heard it, people. Tony Rathman, thank you again so much for coming on. It's such a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all of you for joining us today. If you do want to reach out to us, Cynthia, how can they reach out if they have any questions?
We've got an email at spiritrescuetalk@gmail.com. Email us if you're interested on being on the show. If you've got questions, we love viewer questions. This has been a very interesting topic.
It has, and many more to come. So stay tuned. See you next time.